New Chanel, mama and Gucci, got out the hoop, yeah. Been through hell, carry the, life is a movie, yeah. We prevail, now we do the groupies, don't do the groupies, yeah. Got money for bail, don't act like you know me, knock off your coffee, yeah. Flooded the road with Ethan, Hurricane Katrina the Beamer, blowing the money like Freeman. I got a flex in the sleepers, they tryna do me like Caesar. You gotta watch for the creepers, I got that anesthesia.
Hey, welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Harvey Harrington. Make sure that you guys are liking, subscribing, and sharing these interviews that we do. Very good for a lot of athletes that are coming up, a lot of athletes that are playing right now. Some of the best professional players on the planet we interview, young and old. Today, I have Sam Perkins. He played with the Michael Jordan at North Carolina University. He was the ACC Rookie of the Year. He played in the NBA for 11 seasons. He played for the Dallas Mavericks, the LA Lakers, the Seattle Supersonics, and the Indiana Pacers. I want you guys to welcome Sam Perkins. Sam, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm good. I can't complain. So, man, let's talk about your childhood. How'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up in the streets of Brooklyn, and Brooklyn, New York, that is. And I thought my little growing up was fabulous, you know.
Right.
But, looking back on it, my parents were struggling. You know, they were trying to make ends meet. Grandmother, mom, and I had 3 sisters, so I was the only kid, only brother, only son that was there. So pretty much I was into my own thing, hitting the streets, staying out of trouble, but at the same time, just trying to be a boy and duck and dodge the bullets and fights and stuff. And you had to get some fights. You had to go through some fights before anything. But anyway, had my share and got dented up, and I dent somebody up too. But the thing is, it was just natural because we didn't know anything else.
Right.
And growing up in that lifestyle and seeing, you know, militant brothers and hardcore people in the streets, you just got used to it. And it was a surrounding that you grew up with. And so I made it through playing basketball, playing all kinds of sports, organized, you know, in the parks. And I lived in the parks every day, just going to the basketball court, looking at some legends, Connie Hawkins, Michael Ray Richardson, and then getting involved myself, trying to play ball too. So there was different parts of Brooklyn that were crazy: Brownsville, Brevoort, Fort Greene. I lived in Bed-Stuy, but at the same time, those are different areas that they knew you were from somewhere else because they knew you weren't from those areas, so they would kind of check you before you literally check you before you came into their neighborhood. So that was the kind of lifestyle, but you grew up knowing that, and that, you know, it helps you now to appreciate where you are and where you came from, and kind of look back and say, you know, that was part of me, and it's always going to be part of me.
Right. So how'd you get to the game, man? So.
Long story short, I played in high school. This school called Tilden High School.
Okay.
And I wasn't really. It was in another part of Brooklyn called Flatbush.
Okay.
And so it was like 30 minutes away, and I had to take the bus. But I wasn't the greatest student, and I wasn't getting there on time. And this brother who saw me going walking to the school. He saw how tall I was, and he was a coach, and he was a mentor and everything. And he asked somebody who I was, because on the way to work, he would be on the way. As I was going to school, he was on his way to work. Right. So I came tried out for his teams, and he became, literally to this day, my stepfather and guardian. And he's been through thick and thin from everything I've done. Right. He's been right there, supportive. And ever since then, he's been with me, and we got a relationship going to the point where him and I are just like this. And so with that said, that's how I got back on track, because like I said, I wasn't the greatest student. Right. And every time I went to school, I didn't go to class. And so I had a poor attendance rate and things of that nature. So I wasn't the best student athlete as possible going to school. So I eventually moved up to Albany, outside of New York, Brooklyn, and went up there and lived with him for 2 years to finish school. And while I was there, that's when the school started coming. And he was telling me all the rules and regulations I had to do. I had to maintain a B, keep my nose clean, and things of that nature. So, and get nobody pregnant at the time. So, with that said, I maintained all those things, and that's when the school started coming through: Carolina, Syracuse, Notre Dame, UCLA, and that's how. And things went on to after that.
Why North Carolina, man? I'm a North Carolina fan, but why North Carolina?
Okay, so I'm gonna run it back for you and try to tell you as quick as possible. But there were schools at the time. I didn't know anything about Carolina, and I was in this. I was in the Pan American Games, and went out there and played in the representing the East, and there was different provinces: East, North, West, and South. Right. And the East came in like second, maybe, but I was eligible to go on further to make the team to go over to overseas, and they took about 12 guys, and some guys actually were not wanting to go. They didn't want to play anymore, so they were selected. Then I was the next tier of people that they asked, and when I was there in practice, back then, NCAA colleges and coaches could not talk to any of the guys because I was still in high school. This was my senior year. Right. Coach Smith, at the time, I didn't know who he was. He he came in from one door, that's the furthest door away from me, and walked through, because I guess he was on the NCAA committee at the time, him and a lot of other coaches, George Thompson and all these other guys. And he walked through the practice while we were stretching, and he nodded his head and to let me know who he was. I still didn't know who he was, but they was like, "That's Dean Smith," and that's the first time I ever saw him. So, with that said, it came time for me my senior year to go to different schools. You take like 5 or 6 visits. Right. And one of the visits was North Carolina. I had the best visit out of all of them, because Syracuse is right up the street, 2 hours. Right. UCLA, I went to UCLA, and that was the furthest school. Then I went to Notre Dame to see the Golden Dome, met Lou Holtz, and at the time it was Digger Phelps. Right. And then Lefty Driesell at Maryland, and that's how everything. And Larry Brown was at UCLA. Okay. And the story, because of North Carolina, I asked Larry Brown at the time, was he going to be here for 4 years, because of the fact that he had a reputation of going somewhere and then just
leaving, getting out of there.
Yeah, leaving. Right. And he told me the truth. He said, "Nah, I'm not going to be here that much. I'm not going to be here that long, because he was chasing the money."
Right.
With that said, I made up my mind, because it was going to be between North Carolina and UCLA. Right. Syracuse. Okay. And when he told me that, my next visit was North Carolina. Right. That visit with James Worthy, he was my host. Right. He took me out on the town. I had a good time. Dean Smith asked me about books and stuff, and told me about graduation, and while I'm here getting an education, why don't you just play ball? Well, that visit was better than all the visits I had, and Larry Brown had something to do with that, because I did not know Larry Brown was a Carolina player. Okay. And I guess he knew my next visit was Carolina, so he pushed me to North Carolina. Right. And that's how I got to North Carolina.
Right. So what was it like playing with James Worthy and MJ, man? I heard James Worthy was a big deal back then. I'm a little bit younger, so I don't know much about James Worthy, but I heard he was nice. And then playing with Jordan, and y'all won. What was that like,
Well,
man? What was that year like?
It was cool. I mean, so I told you James Worthy was my host. We became roommates.
Okay.
And he was my roommate in college, and we all lived in one dorm. And so he was my roommate, and we got to know each other. And he took me under his wing, and then after a while, we were just it was just natural. And then when Jordan came in the next year, Jordan was a suite mate of mine, and he was a little country boy at the time. He's nothing like you saw in Last Dance. Nothing like that. You know, he had the 2 gold chains.
Right.
Thought that was ice out. You know, today that would be like, you know, that would be a spark.
Well, it's coming back. You know, everything comes back. The kids are wearing a gold chain now. You know what I mean? Good type of.
But he was a little country guy, and so I was a sophomore, and he was going to be a freshman. So we kind of like hung out for a minute. But he had another guy he hung out with his guy, Buzz Peterson.
Okay.
I don't know if you know him, but they all work at the Charlotte Hornets not right now. But Buzz was from Asheville, and Wilmington is not, you know, in proximity. But they became close friends, and so we all had a close knit. But when practice came, it was so competitive because we went against Michael or played with Michael, and college life was so fun at the time because we were winning, we had a good team. Off the court was, I mean, I didn't know anything about North Carolina, like I said, because I'm from Brooklyn, and that's when I got introduced to white people and the culture and all the things that the South brought, like KKK, for example. They had signs in places like Goldsboro in North Carolina and Wilmington and places like Maxton, Carolina. These places I've never heard of before.
So wait a minute, man. So how'd you deal with that? Like, so y'all would just be riding through and you see KKK signs?
So exactly. So, I mean, to them it was the norm.
Right.
But for me, it was like, yo.
That's what I'm saying.
Did you just see that sign?
Right.
That sign been up there for years. The home of the KKK.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
This is my introduction because I had a roommate after Worthy left. I roomed up with this guy named Cecil Exum.
Okay.
His son plays for Utah, or his son plays in the NBA. I think with Cleveland. Dante.
Okay. I know Exum. Dante Exum. Okay.
Right. So I went home with him, and he lived in Goldsboro, this place called Goldsboro, North Carolina. And I'm driving. He's driving. I'm shotgunning and everything. And next thing I know, I'm like, "Yo, did you see that sign? Like we going into. We're not going the opposite way." So he was like, "Man, that sign been there for years." So now that's the culture of North Carolina because I did not know anything about North Carolina. And as time went on, you can see the separation. Sometimes it was still there because they had a guy in politics named Jesse Helms. Yeah,
okay.
Probably young. You're too young for that. But he was definitely a white supremacist, and people followed just like today, they followed his every move. And he was the prime guy that started all that stuff in the South. So that's how I got fluent with the culture. But inside it, I didn't really see it because we were always on campus. And Coach Smith had a philosophy to, you know, take care of your business, and didn't have much of a life because Carolina was so traditionally known as a basketball, you know, school program. Okay. So, I mean, I got acclimated, and I found out a lot about myself and other cultures and diversity and things of that nature while I was there.
Right. So, man, you talked a little bit about Dean Smith. What was it like playing under him?
Well, he was more like a mentor because he treated all of us like the last guy he treated just like the first guy.
Okay.
And we would sit in his office and he'd have time to talk to us for like 30 minutes or so. But he always wanted us to remember, you know, where we came from and get to know each other. He had a thing where we would be on the road, like, instead of rooming with your guy that you room with now, we room with different guys on the team.
Nice.
So like for instance, I remember rooming with a guy named Jed Barlow, and he was from somewhere in Carolina.
Okay.
But that little time that we spent together, we kind of knew each other, got to know each other. He was so country, but I was so New York that we really talk. We talk about what we have reunions every 10 years or so. And I saw him maybe about 8 years ago. And we actually remember that time we were in the finals, NCAA finals, that we talked about that time because of the fact that he didn't know nothing about me. And he actually he lived right across the hall from me.
Right.
And we never reacted. And so that's the type of Coach Smith was, because he was always wanting us to know each other personally on a personal level and create that bond. So when we played together, it was just more natural, and we knew each other even on a more intimate setting.
Right.
But he was a father to everybody. He was a father to everybody for sure. But he didn't really have. He probably has favorites, but he never told us.
Yeah, I always heard good things about Dean Smith. That's why I was wondering. I'm like, what was your take on it? But so you get drafted to the Mavericks. Tell me what that was like. Did you know you was going to get drafted? Was a lot of people on your radar? Was you pretty high up? What was that like when you worked out for those teams that got drafted?
Okay, so teams came and visited you at the time, so they wanted to know who you were. I'm not sure if they do that now, but I guess more scouting more so than actually come visit you. So I had teams that came out to visit me, and one of the teams was Dallas Mavericks, as you mentioned, and they came out and sat down and had lunch with me because they were thinking about it was going to be me, or they thought I was going to fall into that fourth slot.
Right.
And it was me or this brother named Melvin Turpin who went to Kentucky.
Okay.
And he passed away. But the thing is that draft was consisted of Olajuwon, Bowie, Michael, myself, Charles Barkley, and so on and so on.
Right.
But at that time, Michael and I had made we were trying out for the Olympic team.
Okay.
So we left school for a minute to try out and go to Bloomington, Indiana with Bobby Knight. And they had like 75 guys there, people that we heard of, but we never played against. And Chuck Person was there, Steve Alford, Barkley, as I mentioned, Antoine Carr, some of these guys you may be familiar with. But we were there at the time. And when we made the final cut, we actually made the team. And all 12 of us, those who were seniors, he didn't let us go to the draft because he didn't care about no draft. He cared about practice.
Right.
We didn't. So the draft went on, and we were in practice. So after practice, we had to
You found out that you got drafted?
Yeah, we didn't know. So we had to go to a radio station.
Right.
We had to go to a radio station and find out where we went.
Right.
And so when we got in the radio station, there's guys like Alvin Robinson, Michael, myself, some other guys. And we found out that he went to Chicago or I went to Dallas because I don't know if you remember, but there's no footage on us going across the stage.
Right.
There's no footage, except for maybe Olajuwon and Bowie or somebody like that.
Right.
But there's no footage of any of us. You can try to find it if you want, but there's none of us shaking the hands of the commissioners. So at the time we didn't know. But being drafted by them was I didn't care because as long as I was drafted.
Right. As long as you got in. Absolutely.
Yeah. And fourth pick, I was like, I'm good, I'm great, I'm good. So it was interesting, but at the same time, that's why I migrated to Texas because of the fact that that's where the first time in Texas came about.
Right. Right. So after you get drafted, man, you do 4 years with Dallas. Then you go to the Showtime Lakers, man, and this is when Michael start tearing it up, man. What was that like? I know you guys played them in the finals, right?
Yes. So I came to Dallas, and I was a free agent,
Okay.
And Dallas didn't want to sign me back, and free agency contracts started coming in. Everything started changing.
Okay. Right.
Contracts. So I would have been probably the highest paid player at the time on the team, and that didn't fit right with all the other players in the front office. So they didn't want to mess anything up, so they let me go. So I went to LA, and that's where everything started. And I was watching The Last Dance. I didn't realize when me and Michael met, when the Lakers met them, Chicago, I didn't know it was his first time. I didn't know it was my first time. It just didn't. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Right.
But the point is that Michael went through changes, and you got to thank Detroit for his progress.
Big time.
Because they beat him up, and he was determined. And I never saw. I mean, I've played with Magic and Reggie and a few other guys, but I've never seen a guy with a demeanor that was after, like, he wanted to kill people.
Right.
Right then and there. He studied the guy, and if the guy got the best of him, he'd come back and make sure he got the best of him. He had the last word in a sense. So playing against him, I mean, we saw each other, but we during the game, it's not like, we saying high five or how's the family,
right?
Nothing like that.
Right.
It's almost like, we going head to head, whatever. I didn't care what he was doing, and he didn't care what I was doing, because I represented the Lakers. And everybody didn't like the Lakers at the time, but those two teams were two powerhouses from the East and West. When we met, I thought that was my first chance. I thought that was my first real chance to winning a title, but because he went through all those wars with Detroit and the Eastern Conference, this just made him a better player, and it showed.
Right. So, man, watching The Last Dance, which I take it for sure you watched it. What are your takeaways from that, man? Was there anything in there that was just kind of surprising to you? What was your takeaway from it?
Well, I don't know if anything was surprising, but like I said, like I just mentioned, his demeanor, his determination of just trying to get everybody better. I've seen guys that do that. Like when I went from Dallas to LA, Magic was the same way.
Okay.
You had to be ready for because Magic played at a different level.
Right.
And Larry Bird and all these guys played at a different level. You had to be in sync or in tune with them, because if you weren't, you're gonna be sitting down. Just like as you saw Michael hit people and smack people around, or Scott Burrell. I feel sorry for him right now.
He was on Scotty's head.
But it was never like that. But it was constructive. If I was messing up, or if Reggie said hit that shot or something like that, he passed it to. He expected me to do it. So that's the kind of thing that I was kind of even more surprised at how he got, because he wasn't like this at North Carolina.
Right.
He spoke softly there because we were following a philosophy. But when he got to Chicago, it's almost like you can do anything. Like if you scored 100, 1,000 on the SAT test, nobody can tell you anything.
Right.
And that's how it was with Michael. He can do anything because he was on a whole different platform. So it was. I mean, the Last Dance did not surprise me. There were some stories in there that you knew about, about Scotty and Krause, but you didn't know about the little things like Steve Kerr. You hear about him, but you didn't believe him. Right. And the gambling and competitive, that's just, everybody does that. So they play poker from time they go up to the air to the time they land in another city. So, but the takeaway from that was, for me, was for my daughters to finally see who he was, because a lot of young kids think he's just a crying meme, like he's just a face with tears. But the younger ones found out who he was, and there's always that battle about who's better, LeBron or Michael. And I've seen both of them play, and I killed the conversation. I said, this man is better than hands down. So with that said, the takeaway for me was, like I said, his demeanor and the way he approached each game, and how he had to be like on lit every time he went out there. But he had to get his people or his teammates in on the same mental position to play to compete, and he just needed one or two. He just needed one or two,
right?
And he can do the rest. And once he got the 1 and 2, the 3 and 4s, and everybody else followed.
Right. I think people forget. You know what I mean? It's like I still live here in Indiana, and people talk about Reggie, right? And they're like,
right.
Paul George is the best player to come through. And I'm like, man, y'all forget. Like, it's because it was some time ago. Like, Reggie was unbelievable. Same thing with Mike. Mike was unbelievable, man. I mean, they found a way to get it done.
Right. I didn't play with Michael in the NBA, but playing with Reggie was probably, if you put a documentary for Reggie, it'll be the same thing, or in his own story. But Reggie was one of those guys that when I came to Indiana, you had to do the same thing,
right?
Because he competed. As soon as that ball went off, jumped off,
a high level.
He was on a whole different level. And the thing about it, he was almost like he took little pieces from Kobe, people from Bird. I mean, he watched them, and the thing is, he was there early,
right?
And a lot of guys and players today, they don't. Some emulate that, but they don't really have the definition of being committed. So with that said, he was committed, and I don't understand why this man wasn't the face of the NBA, but yet and still, he was the guy that you had to prepare to be with him in his battles. We go to Philly, we go to Milwaukee, we go to Chicago, especially in New York. He gets so hyped. I guess he marked, like Larry Bird said something to me one time, and I was in his office, and he said that all those other games were warm-ups to him. And so when he played us, it was like a warm-up game, like a practice.
Right.
The only game he cared about was the Lakers, because he knew that was the test. So with Reggie, I think New York was his testament, because he just wanted to compete so bad on that level to beat them, because he knew he was going to war. He treated every game, and I don't know if this is true or not, but the thing is that from where I see it from the outside, Reggie was the ultimate consummate player that just determined to win, like Kobe. He had some facets of Kobe. He didn't have the athleticism, but he still did it in his own way. And he would shoot that ball like it was going to go in before he left it. So he had moments just like Jordan and Bird and Magic, and I really think that I'm glad I got a chance to play with him, because he was another guy that I really enjoyed being on the side.
Right. So, man, tell me how you got the name Big Smooth. I remember the first time I met you, before I even had a conversation, I'm running over like, Big Smooth. You know what I mean? And I didn't even know what it meant, but it was so cool. You were so cool. How you get the Big Smooth, man? Who gave you that nickname?
You was a fool, because you called me Big Sexy. And I was crying. I said, this young cat, man. But so I don't know really how I got it, but we have a clown. We got a clown. There's a clown on every team.
Absolutely.
Like your brother was probably the clown on the Indiana Pacers. Him and this guy, Jonathan Bender. So, and to that point, I was with the Lakers at the time. Okay. And practice was always 9:45. You get to the circle, you enter that circle 9:46, they find you. So sometimes I was always pushing the button, pushing it too close. And I get to the arena, we practice at the Forum at the time, and I get dressed, and I'm kind of steady and kind of at a pace to get dressed and get out there. Guys are rolling past me, rushing and everything, and putting on the lacing up and putting on the practice shirt. and I'm still on my shoes. And he's like, man, you better hurry up before you get fined. So I didn't worry about it because I looked at the clock and I said, I got 3 minutes or something like that. So with that said, I'm walking into the forum, and I'm getting to, I probably got maybe 45 seconds, and I'm walking, and everybody's running past me, wind blowing by me like whoosh, like whatever. And Byron Scott is waiting there. He's getting to the circle. He's already in the circle, rather. And he comes in. Look at this man. This man walking all smooth and like not a worry in the world, right?
Right.
Next thing you know, I get there and practice is called. And I get there, I said, I'm still on time. So he gave me that name Smooth. And when I got to the because he was naming everybody. Magic was Magic. Worthy was Clever. AC, I don't know what they called him, Hat, because his head was big. I don't know. But at the same time, he gave us the names. And so when I got to Seattle, there was an announcer by the name of Kevin Calabro, and he had a voice that was just one of those voices for radio.
I remember who he was. Yeah.
Okay. So he started saying Big Smooth from 3 and all that, and when the 3 started coming even more irregular, that name just went through the roof. And so every time I go somewhere, I don't even hear my name anymore. I wish it was Big Sexy, but they knocked that down. But when I see you, I sound like, hey, this man gonna come.
I called you Big Sexy. That's what it was, man.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, please don't say that too loud.
No, well, it was so dope because like every time you catch the ball, you was like, your jumper was dope. So people be like, Smooth. And when I first got to the game, I'm like, who is that? You know what I mean? They're like, Smooth. I'm like, what are they saying? So I'm listening, and it was like Smooth. So we got to the end of the tunnel. I'm running like, Smooth. What up, Big Smooth?
So like you said, so when they were from a player standpoint, I'm like, I haven't even shot the ball, but they are saying that like I'm gonna make it. So you already know I gotta make it. I gotta make it to make it even more synonymous. Next thing I know, I thought they were booing me. I was like, first people said I thought they were booing you, but they're saying Smooth. So I'm like, I don't think they booing me. So it kind of hung in Indiana, and it just kind of went around as time went on, and that's how it came about.
Right. So, man, what's the difference? I mean, there's an obvious. I think there's an obvious difference in the NBA, but what's the difference in the era and what you played? You know what I mean? With all those, top guys. The NBA was tough. You was able to beat people up, all that good stuff. Like, what is the big difference in the league now versus then? And then, like, this is a two-part question. You talked about LeBron, people saying LeBron is better than Jordan. I personally think within the era, and the question is do you think that these guys would be able to perform in that era like what Mike did and Magic and all those guys? I just feel like, era-wise, y'all had to go through so much more. You know what I mean? It just seemed like the game is so much easier now. You know what I mean? I mean, really, you just got to kind of be able to shoot the ball, and you could travel a little bit. But y'all had it. I mean, when I watch y'all, I saw men. When I saw y'all come out that tunnel, I saw men. And now I'm not saying that they're not men. I'm just saying it's not the same. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on that, man? What the league looks like now, and do you think that some of these players could make it in the NBA back then?
Well, to answer your first part, the game has changed a great deal.
Absolutely.
The game is much more open, and more athleticism is being, tested. Back then, you had athleticism too, but not up and down. You had more physical. When you go back for a minute when I told you Michael had to learn to get through the bruises and to learn how to play the game, or just how to win or achieve. Well, the games were so physical at that time. You know, there was no flagrant fouls called like there are now. There was no running back the tape. There was no looking at replays and nothing like that. We just played straight up. And so you can put your hand on guys and be more physical. The post was like, you know, you get beat up, but you expected all of that. And not to say I don't like the game today, but times have changed.
Right. And
with change comes a whole, you know, had new ideas. They got more, better, I guess, players that are all more athletic, can jump. Right. And that's where the game went to. But you had parity. I believe you had more parity with all the teams 1 through 8. Mm-hmm. You know, there was not a night that you can come in and blow somebody out. And if you did, it was because they were tired or their plane was late or somebody got in or the plane, you know, you didn't have time to practice. But today you have a lot of young guys because you notice these guys are coming out of high school or coming out of college for the first 1 year and done.
Right.
So you're going to have mistakes. You're going to have a lot of mental errors. You're going to have like some games where they're not ready. You got Zion Williams. You got guys like that who just plays 1 year and he has to adapt. Opposed to us playing for 4 years or 3 years or 4 years, you could. I mean, you're already mentally, your body's already prepared for it. But today, you know, you have a guy named LeBron who came before all that, but did come out of high school. Right. But he bettered himself. He learned how to play as well, and that's why you see that he has a success, not through the physicality stuff, but more mentally prepared because he wanted to be the best, and he got that same mindset. Because you had Michael before him, you had Kobe before him, so you had all these guys that he can learn from. Right. Michael didn't have that. And he had, you know, he never really said who his hero was, but the thing is, LeBron had to learn the game as well. And when he did it, you see all these guys coming through that were so young that he just overtakes them. You know, he's playing small forward, and he's actually playing against a smaller person. Right. So some people give him the knock saying like, oh, these guys are young and that's how you score and things of that nature. There's nobody physical than him right now. Right. And to your other point, he could have played back then, but he would have had to learn how to play. Just like Mike and all of us, you know, I had to learn how to, after 30 games, you hit a wall because you didn't play no more than 35 games in college. So imagine these guys hit a wall and day in back to back, or sometimes we had to play 3 games in a row when we sat out lockout. But he had to do that too, and it was more physical. And the thing is that when LeBron plays, he plays exceptional, and he gets on teams. Now you notice he couldn't do it by himself because everywhere he went, he always had a Robin, somebody, Dwayne Wade. He went to recruit Kevin Love at the time when he was going through his prime. He had Bosh. Then he comes to the Lakers, and you notice that they went from 8th place to the 1st place. Right, David. You know, so LeBron has to do it, and that's why I give the edge to Michael because Michael, he just needed one guy, and he stayed at one team. And I don't know if. I don't know all that, but to me personally, I like both players, but I just think that the two eras are so different that you can't even really compare them. But I really believe Kobe and LeBron could play in that era when we played.
Yeah. I think that those guys can adapt. I just look at it, you know, they talk about greatest of all time, and I hear this stuff until you blue in the face. Oh, LeBron's not one of the greatest of all time. I think that there are a group of greatest of all times. You know what I mean? You know, because I didn't see Wilt Chamberlain, I didn't see the Big O. But I just feel like Jordan is on the top of the list because of, you know what I mean, how well he he made players around him, and then you know what I mean. He always demanded the big shots. He always wanted it. You know what I mean. Whereas with LeBron, I don't see that. Kobe, I saw that, but Kobe shot the ball a lot. You know what I mean. And I respect Kobe. Not, you know, I think Kobe's like second in line.
Right.
Last question I'm gonna ask you is, I mean, a lot of people always, what don't people know about the NBA? Like, I talk to some people sometime and they flat out say some outlandish stuff that is ridiculous. It's like, well, LeBron's a bum and he's this, and I'm like, you're just missing it. You don't like him. You know what I mean? Or Jordan was this, that, and the other. And Jordan, you know, they always find some flaws. You went through being in the NBA for 11 seasons. You played with some of the best players in the world. What don't people really understand about the NBA and these guys that are out there?
Let me tell you, they don't see. Well, the one that's misconstrued that I always get all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The playoffs are rigged. They always say,
right.
The playoffs are rigged. They want LA to get there. They want the 2 LA teams to get there this year. Let's say this.
Right.
That's the hypothetically
The stigma.
The stigma is the 2 LA teams. They don't care about anybody else. The Lakers going to get there because LeBron or. Somebody, Giannis is going to the LA. I mean, it's just, or Golden State or something like that.
Right.
But they did that with Golden State at the time. Like, they just wanted them to win. But more so real is we practice when we're not seen off on TV or off a season.
Right.
Guys train. Guys really do train.
Right.
I remember, and I don't know if it's like that today. I know guys have trainers now. It's much more lucrative. They have meals ready for them. You know, we didn't have that, but we train, and they don't do this anymore because of collective bargaining, but because of injury or whatever, low maintenance now, something crazy like that.
Right, load management.
Yeah, something like that. Those terms never even phased and came into our own existence because we had to make the team. And if I sat out for 5 games with an injury, there's somebody hungry.
Somebody gonna get your spot, right?
Somebody gonna get my spot. That's not like today. So we train. I remember practice. We trained 3.5 hours twice a day. And I don't know how I made it because as I came out of college. And I had shin splints, and you don't want to get shin splints. And I had to practice through all that time. Did not say a word, but I iced down like crazy. And I got to my crib, and I couldn't even walk. But I was out there the next day because I was a rookie. I came in late. I held out, and so I didn't say nothing. But that's the thing that makes you better, and that's the thing that people don't see, that you go through a lot of things. Like LeBron said, he was hurt and he still played, you know what I'm saying? So some guys sacrifice, some guys cut their hand and put a Band-Aid on it and they sit out for 2 weeks. But the thing is that the things off season, the preparation, all the things that you sacrifice, you know, not seeing your daughters or your family, because you got to go somewhere. I had many arguments because I had to go work out. I had to go do this. I had to go to mentoring sessions. I had to go to intern, just programs that so many things that just to make you a better person, better player. And with all that said, it's so much sacrifice that you have to be at to stay at that level. And when you do that, even in my later years with Indiana, I came off the bench, but I had to be ready. So I couldn't like just goof off for my whole day. I had to take time after practice, before practice, while Al came in there and did his thing, and you know everybody did their thing. And on the natural, they were just being introduced. I had to sustain some type of consistency, and that's what all I wanted to do everywhere I went. So I think it's more of a sacrifice thing where people don't see, and they think it's lucrative because we're making a lot of money. These kids are making a lot of money, but at the same time, they doing it so easy now because of the fact they have things in front of them that I didn't have. So you got a weight trainer, you got a dietitian, and then you got somebody to massage you all in one place. And it's a little different. So what people don't see is the sacrifice and all the things that come with it.
Yeah. I really don't think people understand, even what you're saying it. I watch Al in the summertime. I mean, take a week off, man, and I mean, he worked his butt off. You know what I mean? Right. And same with y'all. Every time I walk in the facility, y'all in there, you're in there getting shots up. And it's like, man, this dude one of the best shooters out here. What you shooting for? You know what I mean? Yeah. But people don't get that.
Right, Larry Bird. So I tell you, I don't mean to talk so long, but
no, you good.
I was down there with the big guys, and so you have to do your inside moves and so many shots up. So I was about to walk off the court, and Larry Bird said, "Come down here and get your shots up." And I was like, "What?" I already been there for now like 30, 40 minutes over. Right. So I had to stay another 15 minutes to get 200 shots up. And he said, "All you got to do is just make one for the game and you make a big difference." So as many as those 250 shots went up, he just told me all I had to do was make one to make a difference. And he was right, because that's the mentality that he said, like, you can shoot, you're not going to shoot 250 shots in a game.
Right.
But the one is going to make the difference. So every time he called me off the bench, that's what I always remembered, that, so you had to sustain that consistency and that mentality all the time. And there was days I didn't want to go both sides of the court, but it helped me, prolong my career and stay firm and stay fresh. And I don't know if they do that today. I can't say they don't, but I know these guys do work, and that's the things that people don't see, because you have to maintain, especially the great ones like Davis and Wade. Even Wade, he has a remarkable tenure in the league. But also LeBron, I know these guys have to be on their top all the time.
They're taking care of their body and all that stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Yeah. That's the thing. People don't, LeBron puts a lot into what he does. And, I think people are going to miss him when he's gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so, because I don't know if these guys in the next tier are ready,
Right.
I like this. I like Stephen Curry. I like Draymond. I like all of them, the way they just play. I mean, everybody has their knack about Draymond and whoever in this, but Trey Young has to learn how to play the game now. He's an entertainer now for the NBA. He shoots the shots, but now he has to learn how to play when the game is on the line, if he ever wants to be, considered one of the greats, a champion and all that stuff. Shooting from half court, I mean, go ahead, do what you can. Do my best to you.
Right.
But when you get somebody who is tenacious, like a Patrick Beverly, if you got 6 guys like that in the league that you got to see every night or every other night or every 2 weeks, your game is going to change. And if they ever bring back defense, if they ever get defense back into the game, those shots are not going to come ever.
Yeah. It's for me, it's kind of hard to watch some of it, when they're scoring 120 points in the game and it's really, they're not really playing. Like I like the playoff basketball. I like when, you know what I mean? It kind of get personal for them. Like for y'all, it was personal all the time. I mean, y'all might have fights in practice. Whereas these guys is like, they patting on the butt and they hey, let's go golf after this. Like, look, dude, I like it back in the day. That was the best time for the NBA for me. And like I said, I mean, I still watch it now, but I don't watch it as much. Before I'd be just flipping to every channel to see who's playing. You know what I mean? I'm on the dish now. I'm like, okay, well, LeBron playing Giannis. Okay, I might want to check that out. And then I may only catch the second half. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But like you said, it's a different game, man. It's a different game, different time. And money playing has a lot to do with that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So with this virus coming on, this pandemic, they're trying to get back to salvage whatever they can,
Right.
You notice the NCAAs had they really didn't want to cancel March Madness,
right?
Because billions of dollars were coming in, and I don't know if they knew how to function about who's losing $1 billion, through sports. But money is a factor, and hopefully the NBA will get back on track, and salvage this. But the game, like I said, and you said, the game has changed to the point where it's not so much about, okay, who wins, stuff like that. It's more about the business side of it. It's become so much more of a business that they have to sustain that. The things that happen in China, that was a business thing where the NBA and now China is not talking as much. But the thing is, that was more business. I was right there in it, and you can see the background of everybody trying to figure out what to do next. And so with this pandemic, it's the same thing. And hopefully that everything get worked out, and whatever strategy they got coming with Disney World and the playoffs. The playoff format is totally different now. So you can play East and West. So actually Clippers and LA can actually play each other in the finals.
Right. Hey, that'd be different. That sound like March Madness to me. I mean, it might be interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what it looked like. I saw the brackets, and that looks just like they place people in the East, West, North, and South. Something like that. So, and you got 16 playing, and that's different. So we'll see what happens. But Shaq said there's going to be an asterisk on it, no matter who wins.
Well, yeah. That's another story somewhere else, man. We could do a whole nother podcast on that. But hey, man, I want to thank you for coming on. One of my favorites all time, Big Smooth. Like I said, man, good friend, and I just want to thank you for coming on, man. Thank you for your input and telling your story.
And I'm glad you asked me. I mean, because I've seen you when you were young, and now you're a big man. I mean, I think I should call you Big Sexy.
Big,
I should call you Too Sexy, because
cut it out.
Up there, sitting there with the muscles on, and just feeling all you killing.
Man, stop.
So anyway, but I've seen this young man grow up, and I'm so proud of him and his family and Al and all that, his brothers. He just took it to another level. He became responsible young man, and that's what I like. So you had mentors, and Al was, I guess, a big mentor to you and your family and stuff, especially your mom. So I know you all in some kind of way, and I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you coming on, brother.
So,
Sam Perkins.
Stay in touch.
All right.